Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another session of AMA, Ask Me Anything. This is going to be part 2 of our Fit for Duty, Fit for Life series that we started a few weeks ago. We're coming to you live from General Headquarters in the beautiful city of Orillia, and we are neighbors with the beautiful community of Rama. General Headquarters sits on the traditional lands of the Chippewas of Rama, and if you've never been here, please come and visit. It's beautiful. It's really steeped in history, beautiful setting by the lake. We have a beautiful museum here at headquarters where you can learn about the OPP history. I'm very excited to welcome our 2 guests today. We have Constable Erica Ingram from In-Service Training, and we have Mr. Georgian Barber from the Ontario Police College. Welcome to you both. I know that people will be excited to talk with us today because we always get tons of questions about what's OPC and about fitness and about the training. So this is great. I'm so glad that you guys could be with us. I want to start with you. Can I call you Erica? You okay with that?
Yes, of course.
Erica, tell me a bit about your role, what you do now. What exactly is it that you do?
Okay, so I work it's called in-service training. So every year, every police officer with the OPP has to attend their annual requalification certification, which involves their defensive tactics, their firearms skills, their CEW or conducted energy weapon requalification, and I instruct that.
So you train police officers every year to recertify so they can carry all their stuff to make sure everything's on the up and up.
Yes, that is correct.
Now, do you interact with the new recruits also that come through the academy?
Yes, quite frequently. So I don't work with them directly as an everyday part of my job, but I do often train. Actually, earlier this morning, I was teaching recruits. It's called immediate rapid deployment. So I was upstairs with a class of recruits then.
Okay, so you get to see the seasoned officers and you get to see the next generation, which is awesome. Now, Jordan, I know that you're the team lead of physical training at the Ontario Police College. Can you tell us a bit more? What does that mean exactly?
Sure, yeah. The physical training and wellness education, PTWE is what we call it for short, is responsible for doing a couple of things in the basic constable training program. We qualify you for readiness for this job. So we administer task-specific training and task-specific assessment. So a little shift from what people traditionally think of as PT, very much operational in nature in terms of what we deliver.
So every recruit that gets on the OPP or any police agency in Ontario, for that fact, would be coming through your program. You will get to see them and assess them.
Yeah, that's correct. I spent 4 great years working with the OPP as a part of what was then the wellness unit, and probably my most enjoyable time was the time I spent with the recruits, and now I get to do that full time here at OPC.
That is awesome. And which brings me to my next story. I was going to ask you, how did your journey bring you into the seat that you're in now? Because I used to run into you in this building all the time. I used to see you, and I believe we might have even done a couple of videos on fitness years ago together. So tell me a bit about how you got to where you are.
Yeah, sure. And I get recognized still from, I worked with recruiting a lot when I was with OPP, very similar role to what I have here. So I was seconded down to the OPC in 2019, while still a member of the OPP to deliver the PTWE program here. And then I was about 18 months later, I was asked to stay on permanently in this position. And I jumped at the chance. The recruit group, the folks that we see here are so hungry for more. They love to learn, and I really enjoy being able to provide that to them.
Well, that's awesome, and great background having come from that with our academy. So hopefully you still have a little spot in your heart there, soft spot for the OPP officers, our new recruits that you see coming through. Although I know you can't say that, but I can read it in your eyes. Now, Erica, similar, you're an IST now, which is a very important role to maintain police officers across the province. What was your journey from the beginning, how you got to where you are?
So originally I started working as a special constable out of General Headquarters. So my end goal was always to become a police officer. I applied and I got hired and posted to Peterborough County, where I spent about 8 years on the road. While I was there, I was actually teaching the police bicycle course, so teaching officers to be police bicycle operators. Turns out I'm really good at teaching, or they tell me I'm good at teaching and I like doing it, so they asked me to join IST.
That is awesome. And I can say I did my last block training this past January. And Erica, I believe it was you that tested me for my final fitness
pin. That's correct. And, I did.
You are excellent at teaching, and it's a great asset to have you. One thing I want to point out about Mr. Jordan Barber, if you've never listened to our podcast, it's called Reflections Inside the OPP. And I believe, Jordan, you did a podcast with us, episode 22, and it can be found on Spotify, where you talk about your journey and your career with the OPP and the journey that brought you to where you are. So if anyone that's watching, if you have Spotify, go look for Reflections Inside the OPP, episode 22, and you can hear about Jordan's journey. Now, there's a lot of stuff that's going to come up. People always have questions. So I want to remind everybody, if you have questions about the hiring process, the standards, I see there's questions about vision and that, opp.ca is the place to go to find a lot of resources. Our website is very well set up with all kinds of information and links to resources that can help you to get ready for the process. And I see a question about how to prepare. We're working towards that. I want to go now, day-to-day life, just briefly. Erica, tell it, day-to-day, give me in 30 seconds, what does that look like in your role?
So in my role day to day, like I'm always on my feet, right? So I'm full gear, vest, duty belt, constantly on my feet. I'm in a training environment, right? My training is all hands-on. It's the practical skills side of the training house that I do. So we're constantly moving, whether I'm inside, outside, at the range, just constant physical activity in this role.
It sounds like a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie to you.
It's a lot of fun, actually.
Now, Jordan, you were just saying earlier how you tested over 400 new recruits for fitness. So your job is also very complex. Day to day for you, what's it look like? Are you usually in an office in uniform, or you're out there in fitness gear?
Yeah, so this uniform is very rare for me. Usually I'm in my PT gear, but because it's the first week of our classes, we like to fly the colors, so to speak, and sort of set the tone. So we do come in uniform, but that's almost the last time that our recruits will see me in a uniform. We are in the gymnasium, or we are outside conducting practical training, or in the pool. Actually, we also do aquatic training. So very different from one day to the next. It doesn't function like a typical college or university here. Both the instructors and the students will see very different details throughout the week, from day to day, from week to week.
So it's very much hands-on. Where people aren't here to chat about fitness when they see you. You're going to be doing fitness. You're going to be doing the training, which I think is amazing. One of the things that often comes up is, what's the biggest challenge that people have now in your roles? And I'll start with you, Erica, because you see the new recruits and you also see officers after they come back from OPC. What's one of the biggest challenges that you see where people have a hard time maintaining or sticking to something?
Like in a fitness goal?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's just the constant change, right? So once they've finished at OPC, they're kind of on a regular set schedule. Then you come back here to OPP, where you're staying possibly in O'Grady Hall, and you have PT sessions in the morning, but you have evening classes that you have to attend. So now your schedule has changed drastically from what you just spent 3 months doing at OPC, right? And then it only progresses from there, because then once you leave OPP here at the academy, you go to your detachment and now you're on shift work. So now your schedule and your life has changed yet again, and it's something new to get used to.
So people have to remain focused and consistent with their own commitment to fitness, because the surroundings and the hours, everything changes.
It's never going to be the same again, right? Like once you enter this career as a police officer, you're never going to have an exact set schedule ever again. It's just your life will be different. It's constantly changing. So you have to stick true to what your original goal was and keep that for yourself, right? Keep pushing yourself to stick with that goal.
Excellent advice. Now, Jordan, from your perspective at OPC, what's the biggest challenge that you see with fitness related with the new recruits coming through?
Yeah, well, I'm going to echo what Erica said. This training period is incredibly challenging, right from OPC through the academy and, out onto the road with your coach officer. They say, you're drinking from the hose here right from the get-go. So if you're not on top of it on day one, you're going to be playing catch up the entire time. So it's so important that you do the work leading up to reporting for duty, that you've taken care of your fitness and all of those things that you can prior to reporting, so that you can not just survive training, but really thrive through what's probably the most important training you're going to receive during your career.
Wow. So, and like I use that same analogy about drinking from the fire hose. Information is coming at you hard and fast. So you want to make sure you're at your competitive best. And I'm going to use that as a segue. Erica, I'll start with you.
Yep.
What fitness tips or advice would you give to somebody to incorporate fitness in their lifestyle? Because people are busy with work, or when people are looking at applying, they have jobs. Some of them have a couple jobs while they're finishing school. Is there any tips or advice that you could give somebody? How do you start? How do you incorporate this in your fitness?
Honestly, as long as you do a small amount almost every day, then you're staying ahead of the game, right? So you want to make sure, even if you have time for a 10-minute walk, maybe you have a dog, get your dog out for a walk, staying active. That'll keep you going throughout your process there. Then if you have time for longer activities, obviously you want to do more than just a 15-minute walk, right? A 15-minute walk isn't going to be enough to get you to the standard you need to become a police officer, but starting small will help you maintain that throughout.
And that's great advice. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Start small, work your way up. Jordan, same question to you. Any fitness, somebody had asked, how do I prepare for OPC for fitness? So any tips, direction that you would give or advice?
First off, I just want to say that that's great advice from Erica. Don't discount how meaningful those small efforts are. A lot of times, we think if we don't have an hour to put into our workout, it won't be valuable. It absolutely is. You can get value out of very small opportunities. So take advantage of that. Allow yourself time to lead up to reaching your goal. Have a plan. And reverse engineer it from, the day that you want to be ready to go. You should have a plan leading up to that, and you should be able to follow through on that plan. It takes time to develop fitness, right? And it's not something that we can force. If we do try to force it, we run the risk of overdoing it and potentially run into overuse injuries, illness, etc. So give yourself plenty of time, come up with a plan, and follow through on that plan.
Excellent advice. I'm glad that that's what you said, because that's the advice I give from the stage of my presentations. First step, have a plan and make sure it's an attainable plan. If you've never jogged, don't think you're going to go and jog 10 kilometers a day starting tomorrow. Start small, work your way up. I just want to hit a couple questions from the crowd. Thank you for everyone that's joined us. Information about our hiring process, you can find at opp.ca. As far as reusing medical documents and all that, you can email into Uniform Recruitment. You'll find an email address at opp.ca to ask those specific questions. We have 4 classes a year. We used to have 3. There's 4 intakes now. So if you think of it, January, and then count for every 3 months, you move along like that. One of the questions was about what are some of the disqualifications. I'm going to stick to fitness. Level 7 is the minimum. And I believe you'll both echo that. 6.9 and 1,000 volunteer hours. No, doesn't matter. You got to add reach, level 7. And Jordan, we were speaking about this earlier. Where is level 7 in your mind? What does that look like?
So we have, like you said earlier, we just finished performing the shuttle run with 495 recruits. The message that I always give them is, level 7 is the minimum standard. And I view it sort of as the starting line as opposed to the finish line, right? We got to reach that level 7 and then see where we can go from there. If you're not at level 7 prior to your training process, it's going to be very difficult to make progress while you're at OPC for a number of reasons. You're sleeping in a different bed, you're eating food that you're not used to, and you're going through a whole bunch of training. You're having to learn new things. So, push yourself and be as prepared as possible for those fitness challenges before reporting for duty.
Absolutely. Be at your competitive best. Somebody's asking about how do you know if you're overtraining? And I want to use that to lead. I know there's all kinds of training apps that people use. People get training instructors, people get fitness coaches. Can you tell us, Erica, from your perspective, is there any resources that you would recommend that people can use or that you use yourself that can help people not just to start their training, but to make sure they're doing it properly and don't injure themselves?
Yeah, of course. So obviously, number one, if you're overtraining, you're going to start getting injured and you might start to get sick and you'll feel depleted of energy regardless of how much you're training, right? If you're overtraining. What I like to use actually is my fancy smartwatch. So I highly recommend smartwatches. I can track any type of activity I'm doing, walks, runs, golfing, general workout. It keeps track of all of that for you. And my watch specifically will put it into a graph for me and then tells me, hey, you're training a lot harder this week than you have in past weeks. You might want to back off a bit. But
okay, so that's a great point. That way you can compare to see what your intensity to make sure that you're going at a good pace. So using electronic assistance, as we would say. Now, how about you, Jordan? Is there any resources or tips that you would have about that? How to not just incorporate your training, but to monitor it, make sure you're not training too hard, but that you are going to move forward and progress?
Yeah, and it's very, very important. You come to the academy, you come to the OPC, and you want to be able to take advantage of all the training that you are receiving. And if you are injured, if you're ill, that's going to hinder not just what you're doing in terms of PT, but all those practical components are going to be impacted. You're not going to be able to participate fully in defensive tactics and scenarios and all of these things. So being prepared and ready to go. Listen to your body. If you're feeling those aches and pains, that is information that you should pay attention to. And the advice I always give is, you can't cram for a fitness exam. You need to allow your body time to adapt. 10% rule is a good one. You shouldn't do 10% any more than 10% more than you did the week previous. And then listen to your body.
Excellent advice. This is great from both of you. It's generating some good questions. One question I want to tackle, is it true that during training you can be dismissed because of an injury? I want to make that very clear. We don't dismiss people. Injuries happen sometimes in training. We assess every situation on its own merits. And if you were injured, whether at the OPP Academy or at the Ontario Police College, that would be assessed with people like Erica and Jordan. Would that mean that you have to get better and then come back at the next class? But we don't just automatically dismiss people. Accidents do happen. I've sprained an ankle in the past, and I'm sure both of you, you train regularly. It happens. Injuries happen. So these are, don't believe all the rumors that you hear. Somebody's asking about, can you work near home? When you apply, we'll ask you to pick 6 locations where you would like to be posted. So make sure you do some research, look at what you're willing to go to. There's 160 something locations in Ontario. So again, I would ask you to go to opp.ca, where you'll find a wealth of information, and especially on how to prepare yourself. Somebody had asked a question about, they said, I wasn't successful. How do I know what to change? And someone's asking, how do I transition from banking to policing? We have a self-assessment guide on the website, which basically asks you to assess yourself on the 10 areas of assessment that we assess you on, where you do your own little survey, tells you how to score it, and it will show you if you're prepared, if you're not, what areas you need to improve in. So I would definitely recommend to everybody, make sure you go to opp.ca, where you'll find a wealth of resources. Now, one of the topics I want to talk on, because it often comes up, I'm going to start with you, Erica. How big of a role does nutrition play? If you had to talk about nutrition, because we're all about fitness here, what's your comments on it?
Nutrition has a huge role to play, like 100%. What you eat is going to be how your body functions, right? So coming from the road, right, working shift work for 8 years, sometimes it's not always convenient to eat the best food, right? Meal prep takes a long time. Driving around in a cruiser all day, I don't always get time to pull over to eat a hot meal, have access to a microwave. So sometimes it is easier to pick up fast food on a night shift. And you feel it immediately. The second you pick up that fast food after you've been doing healthy eating, clean eating, whole food eating, whatever you want to call it, your body instantly hates you, right? So your nutrition has a huge part to play. I would strongly recommend, even through the training process, you'll get a lot of lunches that are provided for you, and it's not necessarily what you would choose. So trying to meal prep and plan snacks in case the meal you end up with is not what you would like. So just
Great advice. I know throughout my career, I always had homemade protein bars. I used to share my recipe online that I had in my pocket. Working night shift, I'd pack a lunch, because if you will get hungry, you'll get tied up at that call. If you don't have food with you, you might be tempted to go grab whatever fast food. Jordan, same question to you, and feel free to comment on what nutrition looks like at OPC. I haven't been there in a long time, but nutrition-wise, what would be your advice?
Sure, yeah, and I apologize. There is a fire alarm going off in the background right now. We are holding in place, but if I do have to leave, I'll give you a wave on the way by, and we can reconnect.
Absolutely.
Can you hear the announcement in the background, or is the
Barely. I can hear just a little bit. I can still hear you, though.
Okay, I apologize for that. In terms of nutrition, as Erica mentioned, in this career, it's very challenging. There's a lot of barriers that are going to be in place there. Plan for times of weakness during times of strength. So when you're feeling good and motivated, when you have the time to do so, plan those meals, prepare those meals, make sure you're ready to go, because at 4 a.m, when there's nothing open but fast food options, that you may be limited to that. If you're prepared for it, you're good to go. You got to make sure you meet your energy needs. You got to make sure that you're giving yourself healthy fuel to sustain you throughout a 12 plus hour shift. And it does take some work to do that, some work and effort to be prepared.
Yeah, always a good idea to carry food with you in your duty bag, some protein bars, a banana, whatever it is. Someone's asking about the interviews. There is an interview to get on the job, the recruit interview. There is an interview with a psychologist, and there's a home interview. They're all individual interviews. They're not panel interviews. Again, a lot of the information I'm seeing being asked about on the chat, you'll find answers at opp.ca. Sticking in line with what we're talking about, Jordan, you mentioned, long hours. Erica, you mentioned working frontline, you're on the road. If you're not prepared, how big of a role does sleep play? Now, I always said I'm lucky. I can sleep anywhere. I can sleep on the floor of an airport with people walking around me. But some people find it a big challenge or adjustment from working night shift to day shift and being able to sleep. So can you comment on that, Erica? Tell us, some advice on that.
Yeah. So I'm kind of like you, Vinny. I could honestly fall asleep right now if I didn't have this going on.
Are we boring you?
No, it's just something you develop. Once you do shift work for a certain amount of time, you kind of train your body to get sleep when you can. So people who have families at home and other things going on at home, shift work is obviously much harder, because then when you're trying to sleep, everybody's up for the day. I would just recommend make sure you're getting a good night's sleep. So get blackout curtains for those night shifts. Get the room dark, quiet. Make sure you can actually get some sleep. And then when you're in your training, right? Like training, you'll still get regular sleep hours or close to it. You might have to be up early, but plan ahead. If you know you have to be up early for a PT session in the morning, make sure you're going to bed earlier the night before, right? You definitely need that good night's sleep in order to get you through what you need. Like policing is not easy. It takes a lot out of you, out of your body, you're mentally, physically, all of that. You need a good sleep, you need good food.
And you need to be disciplined, right? Maybe like you say, it's the end of your day shift and you've got some friends that are going to hang out at the barbecue, and you need to be able to say, you know what, I'll hang out for a bit, but I need to get to bed because I'm back up at 5 tomorrow morning. And discipline certainly plays a role there. Jordan, what's your comments on sleep, and what does sleep look like at OPC? Because I hear every room has a king size bed. Is that true?
We'll let that rumor just hang out there, Vinny. I won't confirm or deny. Sleep is so important for your physical health, your mental health. Our rest and recovery is a vital part of the training process. If we neglect that part of the training process, we will not get the most out of the other things that we're putting into it. So it is very, very important. It will be challenged throughout your career. The sleep that you do get needs to be as high a quality as possible. So some of those things that Erica was mentioning earlier in terms of sleep hygiene and, protecting your environment, making sure the people that, your family are on the same page and understand why, you got to duck out early from a family event or a social gathering or something like that, are so important. Because if you're working a 12-hour shift, plus you've got some overtime going in, it's going to be really tough to get 8 hours of sleep, time to wind down and all that. So making sure you have all of those little habits in place is very important. We spend some time on that during training at OPC, and I know that you address it at the academy as well.
Very good advice. And one little tidbit that I'll add from my good friend, Detachment Commander Johnny Hatch, who swears by a sleep machine. He has a noise machine. I've seen him use it, and swears by it. So find what works for you. For some people, like Erica said, it's a dark room, get blacked out curtains. Maybe you need to be in a quiet place, the comfort. Maybe background noise works for you. There's different options out there. And I would say to people, Google it. Google how to get better or how to find stuff. Which brings me to a question. Someone's asking, having a hard time getting to level 7 on a shuttle run. I'm going to ask you both for your advice on that. Stuck at level 6. I often say, again, Google it. There's all kinds of running apps. One of the things that I found that I've seen work for new recruits is to run with somebody that's better than you. Somebody that does reach level 7, and they kind of pull you along. You see that when people are doing a shuttle run as a group, that when you see the group moving and you use their energy. So I always recommend train with somebody on your shuttle run that can kind of pull you, because a lot of times it's just a mental block. Erica, what would you say for advice for the shuttle run?
I'd have a question. It would be, what kind of training are you doing? Are you just only running the shuttle run? Because if you're only doing the shuttle run and just that's the only type of running you're doing, you might just be stopping at level 6 because you don't know how to go past that. So maybe try going for, a 8-kilometer run, mix up what you're doing. So not a shuttle run, not with the beeps, but actually just going out for a run. Try mixing up what you're doing.
Great advice. Jordan, same question to you. Somebody stuck at 6.
Yeah, that's a really common trap, Erica, that people do fall into. They think that the best way to prepare for the shuttle run is to run the shuttle run over and over and over again. The shuttle run is a test. The best way to prepare for a test is not to write that test over and over and over again. You need to put some work in leading up. So, we have a program that we run our students through at OPC. It's a combination of long, slow, easy running, threshold or tempo running, and interval training. And actually, I prefer to minimize the practice on the shuttle run, especially if someone is not reaching stage 7, because we don't want them to create a mental block and practice failing that test. So if you're constantly hitting level 6 and failing out, we can have some mental issues that start to build there, and then people psych themselves out of it. So I try to step away from testing and come back to it once we've had an opportunity to develop some of those other types of runs like you were mentioning.
That's great advice. And I've consulted with people that I know that are very much into fitness, such as you. And that's what everybody says. Change it up. Don't continue. If it's not working, don't continue to do what's not working. And I want to take this point to remind everyone, when you apply, at some point, we're going to ask you to email us, send us a video of you doing the shuttle run. Level 7 is the minimum. If you can run to 7.5, 8, keep running on your video. Don't stop at 7. Show us that you can go beyond, because then we know, okay, you're not on the bubble. You're someone that can beat it. And in the same token, don't send us a video of you reaching level 6 because that doesn't qualify. Level 7 is the bare minimum. And I always feel for the people that review the videos. I think after watching a video of somebody failing, I would be tempted to send an email and go, thank you for wasting 8 minutes of my life. So make sure you send us a video of you succeeding. That is what we need. Someone saying, thank you. That's the best advice. That's what they were looking for. That is excellent. What's the highest you've ever seen anyone reach on a shuttle run? Erica?
12.
12. Wow. Jordan?
So I had a 12 this morning. I'll tell you the highest we had in this intake for men was 13. For women was 10. Highest all time for women is 13. That's an OPP member, Amy Harkness, who came through probably 6 or so years back, maybe 7 years back. And the highest for men is a 14.7.
Wow. And I can't remember when I set that record, thinking back. I'll tell you, it was not me. I think the highest I have ever reached was level 10. And I'm not a runner, but you know what? The first time I tried the shuttle run, I had a hard time getting to level 5, the very first time. And it was through training and following exactly the advice you both mentioned about changing up the training, sustained runs, interval trainings. So while we're talking about training, what is your ideal workout? Erica, I'm going to ask you, this is a bit personal, but what's your ideal workout? How does Erica train to be the fit person that she is?
So unlike you, I actually love running. So generally I'll probably do a half-hour run. Depends how I feel that day on how fast I'm going to go, but about a half hour, so 4 to 5, 6K in there. And then I'm going to do some type of body weight circuit type training. So some squats, sit-ups, push-ups, burpees, smaller weights. Like I'm not a huge Olympic weightlifter with barbells or anything like that. And then stretching, obviously. You always got to stretch afterwards. You got to work out those muscles. Don't let them seize up. So add a little stretch in there.
That is my weakness. I never stretch. And as I'm getting older, it's starting to catch up with me. And my massage therapist always says, you got to stretch. Jordan, what is the ideal workout for you?
So since coming down to OPC, I've picked up cycling. I really like riding my bike. There's great back roads out here that are less traveled by cars. So it's a great spot to ride a bicycle and clear your head. That's probably my favorite, but I like to train for something with a purpose, an end goal in mind, whether it's a race or I've competed in powerlifting events in the past. Helps me focus my training and come up with that plan and execute that plan.
Excellent. I can tell you that the minute I stopped being pulled by a dog, I stopped running, except the shuttle run every year to get my pin. I became a walker. And so walking, no music, it's become a meditational thing for me. And it's done wonders, not just for me, how I feel physically, but mentally. Now, I honestly believe that physical wellness and mental wellness work hand in hand together. So having a combination of both, and one helps the other. I love this question that just came up. If you could please, why did you all pick OPP over other services or did not transfer? Well, Jordan, that puts you at odds now because you did transfer. But why did you choose the OPP in the beginning?
So just a great opportunity. My background is actually in high performance sport. I owned and operated a facility in Barrie where I helped coach athletes of all different levels, but some pretty high level athletes as well. Olympic professional champions in a variety of sports, and that was an honor. That was something I'm very proud of. But the opportunity to work with police officers, with an outstanding organization like the OPP, and now services from across the province. This is a highlight of my career. I'm very honored and humbled to be able to do this work. The OPP gave me my start, and I'm very grateful for that.
And it's a very neat role you're in because you get to see all the officers from every service that are going to serve in Ontario. The Ontario Police College plays a huge role and is really the mothership of policing when you think of policing in Ontario. So I'm glad that you felt a good grounding start and you got that opportunity through the OPP. Now, Erica, why did you choose us and how come you didn't go elsewhere? Switch?
So mine's kind of a longer story, but I won't take your time too much. I'm born and raised in Orillia, Ontario, so I've grown up around OPP. So I was growing up when our general headquarters came here. My mom was a civilian in OPP, or in headquarters, and I used to go in constantly. So I grew up with OPP Museum. There used to be a daycare in general headquarters that I went to, just dating myself a little bit. So it just grew from there. So I've always been OPP, always wanted OPP. I became a special constable with OPP, and I only ever applied to OPP. So
Wow.
I've kind of been an OPP girl my whole life, and I made it. So I was happy about that. I would have reconsidered, obviously, if I was unsuccessful, but.
We're glad to have you on the team and glad that you made it. One of the biggest advantages that I always remind people about the OPP is that we serve the whole province. We have great municipal police services that we're partners with. The biggest thing that I remind people is if you work for municipal police, wherever it is in Ontario, that's where you're doing your career for the next 30 years. I've had the opportunity being with the OPP to work in Northern Ontario, to work Keelan 401, to work in different specialized units because we are so big and so broad. Just comes with more opportunity because we have the whole province. I've patrolled on a snowmobile in Northern Ontario, yet I've patrolled on a motorcycle out of Toronto. And we have those opportunities that maybe other services might not have. So that's kind of the thing for me. Somebody's asking how long between when you submit your application till you hear from us. You'll hear from us via email pretty quickly as far as receiving your application and next steps. But I would say right now, the average from the minute you hit submit on your application form to the minute we're calling you about a job is 2 to 5 months. It's a very quick process. We're a very fine-tuned machine, and it's working all the time. With 4 classes a year now, things are happening quickly. So make sure you are ready and at your competitive best before you click and submit your application. Just looking quickly through the questions. A lot of the cadet stuff questions, look at OPP.ca when those opportunities come up. You will be able to see when we're hiring and stuff like that. We talked about, one more thing I wanted to ask you both. What's a good way to set a goal? I know we talked about you should have a plan and that. How do you pick your goal? Would you say, I know Jordan, you had mentioned work backwards from where you So a couple of the questions that I had seen before that were like, how do I start? So we kind of answered it by having a plan. Erica, how did you set goals when you wanted to move on with your fitness?
So it's similar to what Jordan said earlier, right? So I said to myself, what am I looking to accomplish? Am I just looking to get more fit? Am I looking to gain muscle? Am I looking to lose weight? Those are all goals, right? So if it's, I want to lose 2 pounds, but I want to gain muscle. So then I'm going to set that goal and I'm going to be very strict on it and try to maintain when I'm weighing myself and make sure it's around the same time every day. I'm going to remain very consistent with that goal that I'm trying to achieve, right?
Excellent.
And then work towards it.
Now, Jordan, I'm going to ask you a question as we get ready to wrap up here. Just came up. What are some of the other items or what are some of the other challenges that you see recruits struggling with? If you could give somebody advice because they're going to get ready to prepare outside of fitness, what's something else that you would give them advice?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the challenge on the fitness side that we see at OPC is 100% that shuttle run. So that being taken care of, I would say focus on a big focus of our program actually is stress modulation and stress management. explore some of those tools and techniques. There's a lot of things out there. Understanding when and how to put those into practice can help you in the long term, just to help keep things in balance. But in the short term as well, managing high stress situations, understanding how you respond to certain stimuli and how you can bring yourself into that mind frame, that psycho-emotional state where you can perform well and allow stress to make you better, not to be detrimental to you. So there's a whole, toolkit that you can and should work on developing, so that you can, perform your best in those types of circumstances and keep yourself healthy and well throughout your career also.
Great advice, because like we said, mental health plays right in with physical health, and it's all about preparedness. That seems to be the resounding theme. Have a plan, be prepared. Don't come, expecting to be ready to handle everything. It's always good to look into it, do some research. Don't be afraid to research stuff and to challenge yourself. Just as we get ready to wrap up, I want to give you each a final thought. It could be advice, it could be anything. You can tell us a story. Erica, I'm going to start with you. Final thought before we wrap up.
Final thought. If you want it, work for it, right? All of that stuff comes into play. So make sure you're doing your workouts, make sure you're eating healthy, make sure you're sleeping properly. Like, don't sacrifice any one of those categories just because your goal is to get hired with OPP. That's your goal. Work for it, stick to it. The drive is what counts.
Great advice. Stick to the plan and don't quit. Jordan, same to you. Final thought for our viewers.
Yeah, well, so there was a question I saw a little bit earlier on in the broadcast, just around the day-to-day life at OPC. We sort of addressed it in terms of there's a lot coming at you, a lot of new information. Staying on top of it, making sure that you prepare yourself for a very stressful challenge. Be aware that you're going to be away from home. You're going to be eating different food, sleeping in a king size bed, as you said, Vinny. Your world is somewhat disrupted for a period of time, and it is very challenging. So do your best to be prepared for that. There's no secrets here at OPC. There's for whatever reason, some sort of mystique. We want people to be as ready as possible and to thrive through this process. So ask those questions, whether it's folks or resources that you can reach out to. We're all on the same team here. Ultimately, we all want to put the best police officers on the road possible, right? So reach out and find that information out for yourself so you're ready to go when the time comes.
Excellent advice from both of you, and I will echo your thoughts that the Provincial Police Academy and the Ontario Police College, our goal is to see you succeed. There's nothing about what we do that is tricky. The goal is to help you. I want to thank everyone that's joined us today. Thank you for following us. Please go to opp.ca where you'll find upcoming events. Sign up for an information session. There's all kinds of links to resources that can help you. We are hiring, and we want you to inquire about that. opp.ca is where you'll find everything you need. Thank you again, Jordan. Really appreciate you being with us. Thank you, Erica. And I want to wish everyone a great afternoon.